Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cotchall. Thank you for listening to Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Ido Singer, and he is a basketball coach at the University of North Carolina. And he used to play professional basketball. And I really appreciate his time today. And he's going to share some of his background and what makes him resilient, because there's a lot of stuff going on with everybody. Can you introduce yourself, Ido? Ido?
Of course. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on. My name is Ido Singer. I'm an assistant women's basketball coach at University of North Carolina-Greensboro.
Oh,
A little
Greensboro.
different than North Carolina.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's okay. There's so many University of North Carolina, this and that. So we're definitely all about the G over here at Greensboro. So I want to make sure I represent properly. Yeah, that's what I do.
So how did you get into a basketball coach? I mean, becoming one that's very intriguing.
Yeah, I think I fell in love with the game when I was 7 years old. My falling in love with basketball story is silly because my mom took me to this local Y, and there was a basketball team or a class that was taking place, and she just wanted me to be out of the house and be active. So she took me to this class and walks onto the court in the middle of practice and goes, "Coach, here's one more player for you." Then he puts me in a scrimmage, and my claim to fame, my first ever thing on a basketball court was catching a pass, taking about 17 steps without dribbling and throwing the ball over the fence. So that's how I started with basketball. But I fell in love with it. I owe so much to it. The game, the discipline that came with it, the opportunities, the relationships, the traveling, the hardships, the life lessons, everything that came with it. I owe it so much. And so I loved playing. I was fortunate enough to turn pro in Israel when I was 17. That's actually where I'm from. I was born and raised there. And so at 17, I was pro and played professionally for a few years and fell out of love with the game, moved to the States, went to school, and then wanted to get back to it and into it. And I started coaching. And that's kind of where the coaching romance began. And
I think
fast forward
that's good
16
that
years, I'm in North Carolina.
right, and you're applying your love for it to students, which I think is good, right? I hope you can hear me. I think you're
Yeah.
like pausing. Yeah, it's there's a YMCA in Israel. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think I called it that just for
Oh,
relatability,
okay.
but there's some, there are organizations that will have, similar organizations that will have those basketball teams and classes. So
Gotcha.
that's where she took me, the local place.
So it was an outdoor, I guess, thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And the stuff I think is so important. I'm very in line with you on having children get involved in some kind of activity, and I think it helps their brain think,
Yeah.
and it just helps the circulation. And I was terrible at basketball, so maybe because I'm short. No, but I
Mhm.
was terrible at it. But my brother liked to play it. I did other kind of sports that coincide with my height. I'm being funny. So how did you you said you played basketball, then you came to the United States and you not played, but where did you go to school? I'm just curious in the United States.
Well, I will get to that. To get to your point right there, I think that what you just said was very interesting because I wasn't very good at basketball too, starting.
Right,
I wasn't
right,
very good, and I was never a superstar. I think
right,
what basketball gave me was a certain sense of resilience, certain sense of adaptability,
right.
and I was able to take one or two very, very basic skills and become elite in them. And so I made up for my lack of athleticism. I don't think I could ever jump over an iPad, but still, I was able to really maximize my opportunity because I was resilient, competitive. I hated losing, and that was all instilled in me through basketball.
That's so cool. That
Yeah.
is, I remember having to take when I was in, high school. We had to do basketball. That's when I learned. I'm like, oh God. So it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little clumsy with it, but I was a gymnast, right, and a runner, so it's a little bit different. But I think maybe because somebody hit me, maybe it was my brother, probably threw the ball at me all the time. Maybe that's why I got away from. I'm sure. I don't know if you have any siblings you had to work with too to compete with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not so much. My sister is 3 years younger, so I never played with her, but I did play with older kids, and they used to always beat up on me. So it
Right.
definitely helped me build character. I appreciate all of that right now. I had no idea when I was going through it. It was really bad, but now I appreciate it.
Right. And I see, like, I was a younger sister, right? So I annoyed my brother probably, tried to do
Yeah.
everything he did, right? So, and maybe that's why I got into sports because I had an older brother. But I just think it's great that you're impacting students now because I just think it's so critical. Like you said, it helps build adaptability and resilience. And, how long have you been a coach at UNC Greensboro?
At UNCG, this is my second year at UNCG, but as a coach at all kinds of levels. And I started from the middle school level and I was doing private one-on-one lessons with little kids. I've been doing this since, I would say, about 14 years. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah, I've been doing this for a really long time. And I've had the privilege of working with kids of all levels and all ages, all the way up to professional players. And so I, I learn a little bit from every experience that I have. And I think, being able to do that, the privilege of doing this is such a blessing in my life. It's been such a blessing. I love what I do every day.
So do you guys have to, I'm assuming you guys travel a lot,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
especially a college team.
hmm Yeah, we do have a lot of travel. We're a bus kind of conference, so we'll be bussing around 4, 5, sometimes 6 hours if we need to. We have some closer games. We actually had the opportunity to go to Italy this past summer on a
Oh,
trip with
wow.
the team. So we got to play 3 professional teams out there and just spend 10 days, and it was an amazing experience. And like I said earlier, I think basketball allowed me to have so many opportunities. I'm just so grateful for it.
Well, it is a hard sport too. So it helps you to push through challenges. And again, I'm going back and forth to the coaching thing. I think it is so cool because I admire people who can do that. And you're just helping the younger generation understand how it helped you and you passing that on. And so when you're not coaching, well, how long is it? I'm not familiar how long the season is. But I'm so used to hockey, like I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. So what is the season for basketball?
Typically doesn't stop for about 3 weeks for us. We were able to spend more time with them. But the actual season, from the first game until the last game of the season, it's usually October through February, and then depends how further along you go into the tournament and
Right,
everything.
right. I gotcha.
Yeah.
They're kind of like hockey a little bit, maybe. It's probably the
Mhm.
same. It's a
It's
winter
not
kind
long.
of thing.
It's
Very
the 4 months.
similar.
Yeah.
Depends if you get into a
Any
the
kind of conference or tournament play.
right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the word. Right, all these little
Yeah,
playoffs, whatever.
exactly.
So you also are a parent. You had mentioned you have 3 children, twin girls and a young boy. So
hmm
that's got to be challenging, right?
I admire my wife every day. She's at home with them and she loves doing that. It is a challenge, and I'm reminded of that every time
In a
I have
good way.
quote, oh yeah, every time I quote unquote have a day off and I get to spend it at home. It is very, very challenging. They're amazing. They're at such a fun age right now, and I feel like every stage of their life was fun for different reasons. They're at such a fun age, but it is very physical. It's very emotionally draining at times, and it's early in the morning until late in the evening. It's very, very demanding. So I really enjoy being a father and a husband and doing that. But there is an inherent amount of stress and added pressure when you're doing that with a full-time job and raising kids, and you know how that is.
Right.
It's very difficult. There's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders as parents, and then leaders and people who are trying to help other people. You just can't slip up.
Right. And then it's my situation was I traveled a lot because I was in a corporate position and that was really hard. And so I relied on my husband a lot. He didn't have to travel a lot then. So it's like goes back and forth and I had my family have to help out because but I was all, we found a way to be there. And I just can't imagine having three and two of them, are twins. That
Yeah.
to me is so exciting. How old are the girls, the
The
twins?
The girls are turning 5 on the 26th.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and this is going to be the second year in a row that I'm going to miss their birthday because
Oh,
they're
bummer.
over. Yeah, they're in Massachusetts and I'm traveling, so they're visiting with family. So I'm going to be, so that's a part of the job here that makes it difficult. Their birthday is always in season and sometimes I'm
Right.
traveling. So there's an inherent challenge in that. But yeah, they're going to turn 5 soon, and our boy is going to turn 2 in March.
Wow.
So
Have
yeah.
they expressed an interest in anything? What do they like to do? Are they creative? I'm just curious on that.
Yeah, it's funny you ask. I just released an episode on the podcast that I have about creativity and how we need to nourish that and never suppress it as
Right.
parents and as adults. And so we pay a lot of attention to that. Anything they want to do to create, anything they want to do to explore, we try and encourage it as much as possible. And what they're really into right now are reptiles.
My older son was really into that.
Yeah, it's amazing. They go through phases where they're
Right.
into this and then into that. They watch this YouTube channel by this woman who has an education center about reptiles. So they're really into snakes. They can name any lizard in the world. They can differentiate between them. They teach me so many things. So I
Right.
think it's so cool. It's really cool.
Right. It's right. It goes back and forth. You learn from them. My older son was into dinosaurs. I got, I he wanted to be, what is it, an archaeologist? I can't even say the word archaeologist,
Archaeologist, yeah.
something like that. So, but that's something I grew up, my father that raised me, he was a science teacher. So I think just, to me, it's always being curious isn't important. So, and
Yes.
I'm in my publishing and printing, all that. So I've always gave them books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important too, in different topics. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our kids, for whatever reason, aren't that interested in electronics. They just want
right.
books. If we give them a book as a present, they are all about it. And we count our lucky stars every time they do that.
It's crazy how so tech driven some people are. They just stick screens in front of their kids, and I don't think that's good. Healthy, long term, especially.
If it works for them, it works for them. For
Correct.
us, the books have been such a blessing, and they just gravitate towards that. And the young one does the same thing. They just give them books all day, every day. They're
You learn, right? You learn so much from that, and they learned to write. I wanted to get them to tell stories too. I just being creative.
Yeah.
My younger son was into. I gave him a camera, or he's taking pictures of everything. So I just think how you see the world kind of comes out that way too.
And that's really cool. Yeah, he gets to kind of capture what he finds interesting, and you get to
right. And
with that.
He doesn't do it now, but he was obsessed with the camera,
That's
which
awesome.
is right. And we had to it was the old school kind. We had to develop films, so you don't know what was going to be there.
That's fun. Isn't that fun though? The experience of going together, developing the film. Oh, what did you take pictures
right.
of? And then you kind of sit there and wait and see how it develops. It's not instant gratification. It's kind of the excitement of how is this going to unfold. And I think that's so cool.
And I think that's probably why I've always, when I was younger, like I said, I was really into books, and I used to write makeup stuff. And my older son is going to be graduating with a biology degree soon. So, but I think it's because of his love for animals. He went that route. We're not sure what he's going to do. He can do a lot of stuff with a biology degree. So we don't know what he's going to, when he gets out. He's right now as a vet tech, a vet assistant. So and that's helped, going through that and going through college. And you just don't know what your kids are going to do. And that's why I think you should let them explore. And I think it's great. Your children love books, and they're going to get ideas from it. And what prompted you to start your podcast? Is it because of being a coach? Is that what it is?
No, it's actually in spite of it.
That's what
I feel that, it's, what it's like having kids, that takes a big chunk of your time.
Yes.
And rightfully so, that is the priority. But then you also have a full-time job. So when do you have time to do anything else? And I think I took that and I said, well, in spite of the fact that I don't really have time to do anything else, I have something I feel like I need to share. And so the podcast came from a few months back, I used to post these pictures of things that I thought were thought provoking for me. Either it's a quote or a thought or something that someone said, and I would post it, and I will write my 2 cents as a comment on the bottom, and I would call it my one last thought, and it would be the last thing I would post on social media for that day. And so I had a bunch of people interact with these posts and shared or commented on them, and I realized, okay, people respond to this, but it's only my 2 cents. It's only my point of view, and how can I get other people's points of view who are just as valid, if not more, to a bigger audience than just the people who are following my accounts? And so I always wanted to make a podcast, but I don't think I would be good at that Q&A stuff, and I'm not a very good interviewer yet. And so I wanted to do something that's different, that's not really out there. And so the format of this podcast is I will only ask my contributors one question. And the question is, if you had one life lesson you can share with future generations, what would that lesson be? And so people record the message, 2 to 3 minutes. They'll send it to me. I'll chop it up. And then I pair a man and a woman who talk about roughly the same thing. And I weave it together as a back and forth conversation.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So without interjecting or reintroducing who's saying anything, I'll introduce the people at the beginning and then I'll wrap it up at the end. But they will have a conversation that never took place, reinforcing each other's
Oh,
point.
that's so cool. I never,
Yeah.
that's a great idea. And I started my podcast because it's like an offshoot of one of my books.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people tell me I talk a lot, which I do, but I do like to have conversations and people learn from, and I want to ask too many questions. It's more, we're going to go with this, and it's a conversation. A couple of my episodes are just like the audio version of parts of my book. You know, I do that kind of stuff, and or I've read blogs. I'm just trying to figure out what resonates with people. Right. And like I said, I keep it a max of a certain time limit. But what you're doing, I like that. That's very creative. I love the creativity aspect of it. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. And it's just so helpful for people because there's a lot of, clips. That's so important. Mm-hmm. People are going to listen to shorter things, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get attention from it. And I think I participated in your, I gave you my last thought, but I think I said focus on
what you did, and I appreciate that.
Right. So focus, people don't realize as you age focus on what's important. That's always been my thing. Try to, because we're going to have lots of stuff thrown our way, right? And is it important?
Absolutely. And I think to your point, what I am trying to do is I am only trying to focus on what's important with people's messages. Yes. I don't get in the way of the message. I will take the best parts of it. And if the podcast has never gone over 10 minutes from play to stop, never gone over 10 minutes. So if anybody wants to fast forward through the introduction and then fast forward through the end of it, you are getting a max of 5 minutes of actionable stuff that you can take and immediately apply. Life lessons of people who went through the hard stuff or just are bearing their soul and trying to give people their best piece of advice. And so I think it's very raw, and I love your message there on focusing on what's important, because like you said, as we get older, we kind of realize the things that made us upset 20 years ago are so minuscule.
Right.
It's just not worth it.
Right, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to get across to other people kind of with mine. And that's why I focus on resilience, because we all deal with something. And that's kind of what this podcast is, being resilient. Yeah. And you just, like you said, basketball helped you, right? Yes. And it helped you learn how that works. And you're a role model for everybody. And I think that is so important. And that's what my other book was about, my stepfather. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how much of an impact, he had until he passed away. And it's unbelievable that he acted normal, which I think is important. Is that the right word? Even though he did all this amazing stuff, mm-hmm. he was on a level that made everybody feel good about themselves. And that's kind of what, does that make sense?
That's such a special skill. If you can walk this earth and make people around you feel good about themselves, they're always going to remember that. And your footprint on this planet is going to be way better than someone who opened 20 clubs and got 1 million people drunk.
Correct. Right. And that's kind of how, everybody that I met and talked to who knew him, they had nothing but positive things to say about him, and how he was a special forces officer. He did all this crazy stuff, but it didn't matter what rank you were. He treated everybody the same. He treated girls the same. I think that's important. I think that's what you're doing. You're helping build girls. If you think about it, what you're doing, helping build their confidence. It's important.
Yeah.
Just like
I try. We're just trying to go through adversity together. And what do we learn from this? How do we bounce back from disappointments? How do we keep them positive? How do I keep myself positive? It's hard. We go through a grind in this profession.
Like that. Yeah.
It is so hard. And so we're just trying to pick each other up. And I have off days. I'm not the best leader on every day. I just try and be better the next day as much as I can.
Right. Learn from it. Right.
Exactly. We're not perfect. We're just trying to do good in this world and hopefully show other people how to be better. And that's all we're doing.
I really love your perspective, and I think your kids are going to be good. And your wife is very supportive, which is good. Is she from the United States? I'm just curious.
Yeah. She's from Massachusetts. Her family's there. That's why they're visiting.
Right, you mentioned that, right?
Yeah, she's amazing. I would not have been able to do what I do without her support. I don't have a career. I don't have a podcast. I don't have kids. I don't have nothing without her. So I just I appreciate her all the time.
And right, you have to support each other. And I think my husband and I joke, my husband and I are yin and yang. We kind of are, but it's a good thing. And he's very supportive of me doing this. He's like, "What are you doing?" But I'm kidding. But he. Can you imagine, back in the day, I was, I'm in my 50s now, but traveling back then as a woman, it was, it was difficult.
Yeah.
And it is now still, but I'm just saying it was very unique. And I think maybe because I was raised in a military family environment, that helped me be resilient and be standing up for myself and others. And that's kind of what I do. I do a lot of health advocacy too, because your health and wellness is a lot to do with your environment. And I just, trying to figure out where else I can help people. But I just like to share conversations like this on people like you who are helping, because you just don't know where you're going to learn something.
I know. And it's funny. I can totally relate to that. I spent 3 years in the military in Israel. So I understand that perspective, and coming from that, the discipline, the honor, respecting other people.
Yes.
The very small things of making your bed every day, which is something that a lot of people overlook. But starting with a small task, achieving a small task at the beginning of the day might get you that momentum you need. Who knows?
It's so funny that you said that. My husband, it helped him. He was in the military too. And, but he, my father who raised me said, don't go date a military guy. So what did I go do? Go to college?
Date a military guy.
I'm stubborn. No, but that's part of it. But no, I didn't go seek him out. I just, one of those things I went to school originally at Campbell University, which is by Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
And I met my husband in Fort Bragg. He was stationed in Fort Bragg in 82nd Airborne. And long story short, that's kind of how it was. And then he got out of the military and went back home to Wisconsin. And I ended up eventually transferring to the University of Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
My parents thought I was insane,
Well, I guess you had it right.
Being raised in the South, it was really cold. But I ended up going to the Oshkosh campus. So like you'd mentioned, UW has a lot of different campuses.
Mm-hmm.
And I went. So it worked out well. But right, it's I think the military. People don't. They take the military training for granted. And I really, even though I wasn't personally in it, I saw the benefit that it had for my husband and other people that I know in it. It just, it's just.
It's a blessing. It really is.
It's just cool. And I joke that you mentioned that you're from Israel. I'm going off on a tangent here. I'm a first generation American actually too. My mother's French.
Okay.
So my real father was, I think he was in the Korean War and then stationed in France before Vietnam. And that's when they, got married and had my brother and then me. And then Vietnam happened, and I never, it kind of messed. A lot of guys have PTSD from that.
Yeah.
Never mentioned that, but that was upsetting to a lot of families. But I was really fortunate to have I'm just really lucky person. Maybe it's just my outlook. I'm always looking at the positive. I don't know why I do that. I think that helps.
That's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing.
I don't know why I do. But whatever, I have it. And so my husband, by the way, was stationed in Israel too for a while. This is during the 80s,
Oh, it was a different time back then, for
sure.
But
it was different. And so it was a little calmer back then. Is that the right word?
Yeah. No, it was definitely calmer back there.
So he was there for a while. And so you just don't know. So that's so cool. I didn't know you were on the army. That's so cool.
Yeah. It's just funny, how things just kind of intertwine.
Right. We have so many people we have so much in common with each other. We just got to find that door and open it up. And that's why I think I was successful in my corporate, because I did business development and all that and sales. This because I would believe it or not, I would listen in a business call or business meeting. But then it's just talking and getting people to open, and it's about building trust.
Yeah.
I think having conversations about building trust. And
that's the word, conversation. That it only happens through conversation.
Correct. And I've been told too, sometimes I'm a little too trusting, but I think that's okay. Right.
It teaches us. Right.
Believe me, I've been burned a few times. Don't get me wrong. But my nature, because I don't know where I got this from, but I like to look at the positive aspect when possible. Then if it's not, then I move on. But then it's so good to have you on today. And we're getting to the end here. So can you tell everybody where they can find your podcast, One Last Thought?
Absolutely. So One Last Thought on Twitter, Instagram. If you want to email me, it's onelastthought@gmail.com. But if you just Google One Last Thought, you'll be able to find it anywhere. It's on every major and minor podcasting listening app, or wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll be able to find it.
That is so cool. And I thank you so much for your time, Ido.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll talk to you soon.